Alrighty, welcome to another week of Psycho for Tycho. As I grab my Dr. Pepper.
From Tycho, of course.
Welcome back to Psycho for Tycho. It's another week, and we're continuing on Western Pacific 2004. And as you can see, I have the decals applied and ready to go. So the only thing I'm going to be doing with this is we're going to be on the DCC system. We're going to be attaching a speaker. We're going to be attaching a speaker baffle. Okay, yeah, this one's too big. That's what I thought. So I got this little oval speaker. So we're going to have to prepare this for the speaker. But the main focus we're going to be on is this Mantua GP20 drive, which is DCC ready, but has got more wires than the Space Shuttle. And we're going to be hooking this up with a new decoder. This is the TSU 2200 from Tsunami. And this is probably the most expensive thing that's going to be going into this, because this cost me about $95. But it is a prime mover specific decoder, and so it is an EMD decoder, as we can see here. So I can run anything from a 567 to a 710. And we want the we want this to be the 567C, I believe. Well, we want one of them with the turbo, so it's either going to be the 567 12-cell with no transition, or the 567C. But we'll get it programmed up right. But first of all, we've got to connect this. Now, looking at the Mantua version here, which is the rebuild and probably more truer Tycho than, say, the Con Foods Tycho, we've got ourselves a decent motor. We've got a flywheel. The motor is isolated. The trucks are isolated, so this is going to be just the great candidate to put in the new decoder. As soon as I can open up the package. It never fails. I get everything prepared, and I don't have anything prepared. We'll also mount a headlight in here, and the headlight I've got, hopefully out of my electronics bag, is this tiny little LED. And then when I'm all said and done here, I gotta find the handrails, and I'll mount and paint the handrails. Now, you've all seen me do this before with the hooking up, so we'll probably do some fast forwarding. I've got the soldering iron, which is off camera, warming up, so it's just a question of clipping and unsoldering wires and using some of the Walters goo to put the motor back in, because yeah, this is why I got it so cheap. The motor was literally in the Mantua GP20. The motor was out, it was disconnected. The guy wanted to sell for parts. It was like literally $10 freaking that I bought this darn thing for. So, quick rundown on price. $50, a quarter. Yes, a quarter. $2. So right now, this GP20 model specific is a heck of a lot cheaper than the Walters, and that's kind of what we're trying to achieve here. So I will be shortening these wires up a lot. Okay, I just got to figure out how this thing is wired. Oh boy, this is going to be interesting. So a lot of this stuff in this DCC ready is not going to be what I need. I could have got a plug for this, but like I said, I'm trying to get sound specific, so that's a little more important to me than just plug and play. Alright, we're going to get my clippers out. We're going to start clipping wires, and we're going to start soldering this up. You know, I almost want to think this one's got a plug in it, to be honest. I could be wrong. I'm not about to take off the shrink wrap. Now the nicer thing is, I've got a lot of room to play with, especially once I get rid of the Apollo 11 wiring here. And let me make sure I don't clip the wrong wires here. Okay. First of all, we'll shorten these up. And red is separated. I need some solder wick so I can get the excess solder off. And all solder wick is just a little bit of a brass strip. It helps draw the heat away and draws the wire away. Finally, I need white and blue. So, green, go bye-bye, yellow can go, bye-bye, brown can go. Wait. Yeah, brown can go bye-bye. Finally, we're going to use some liquid tape. What did I just knock down? Did I knock down something? Something went down. Man down, man down. Okay. So we're going to use some liquid tape and an old brush so I don't ground anything out. That's very important. And you notice I haven't hooked up the speaker yet. That's because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to drill some holes in where the small fan is. And that's where I'm going to put my speaker. And hopefully I don't need a baffle. But if I do need a baffle, I will be making a baffle. Now, if you're wondering what a baffle is, okay, a baffle is basically a baffle is basically an enclosure that will help the speaker project where the speaker sound is supposed to go. So I'm just going to make a couple of holes here. And I got to be careful. I don't want to go through the winterization hatch. Be enough. I didn't penetrate the winterization hatch. All right, so we're going to give the liquid tape about 15 minutes to dry. I'm a little excited about this. I really am. This has been one of the Western Pacific locomotives that I've always wanted to do, just because, you know, the Western Pacific has oddball stuff, you know, other than the Fs. Western Pacific had a very unique fleet of first and second generation diesels. In their fleet, even up until the 80s. And that was like with a lot of Class 1 railroads, was the fact that, you know, they were rebuilding and hanging on to their things. Southern Pacific with their SD9 capital rebuild program, Santa Fe with their CF7s. The 70s and 80s were a great time for Class 1 railroads to bring out their oddball stuff. I don't need that magnifying glass. Liquid tape on that so I don't short that out. And another great thing, if you've been following the series too, this sort of project, this unique project that I'm doing, it doesn't necessarily have to apply for you to build your own Western Pacific Jeep 20. However, you could do this to, say, one of the Super Centuries, or one of their SD24s. You can make a low-nose SD24, because not a lot of roads had the low-hood SD24s. You could get crazy and you could try and build one of Santa Fe's rebuilt SD26s, which I do not recommend, but your modeling skills are only limited by your imagination. Alright, so we're going to let this all dry. So with the Bachmann system, alright, I've already got my decoder already mounted in here. I do not like the Bachmann motor design. This came out of another busted down Bachmann. I think I got this one for maybe 30 bucks on eBay, including shipping. But the way the motor was designed is one of the tabs goes onto the frame. So I was able to fix that problem by putting a piece of cardboard in here, making this DCC compatible. I've got my connecting wire, and if I can find my B unit real quick. And so here's the dummy unit that I've got set up. And as you can see, I've got micro plugs going from both ends. This will obviously go out through the bottom. This will go out through the nose hatch. And then I can plug it in to go forward and backwards. Now I've got two speakers in here. I've got a sugar cube speaker, and I've got an oval speaker, and I got another oval speaker in here. I already tested these out, so this works. So all I have to do is add the couplers, and I got to get more decals because I only had enough. I only had enough to do the front end of 918, and I still got to do 921 and 917, I believe it's the other F unit. And I've found another Athearn frame, so yep, I'm going to have to sell my soul to microscale again. There's the DCC'd F unit, and this is just using that Economy decoder that I got for 67 bucks off eBay. I also found out Amazon has them for the same price, so that's good. Got my little 2 ohm speaker here. These sound nice. Just straight out of the box nice. So these are going to take another week or two to get done. I might do a separate segment on that because I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to use the older Western Pacific decals that I have for another test of some sealant so that those decals don't go by the way of my Santa Fe plug door boxcar, and that'll be a good review, I think. All right, so we're gonna plug in my DCS 51, and all this is doing right now is I'm just testing everything. I'm not programming nothing, so the default's going to be at default 3. And if I have everything working here, then I can go ahead and I can program in what I need to program in, which is basically just a 4-digit address. Everything else can be programmed on the fly. All right, folks, I am hooked up. All right, here we go. Probably because it hasn't been cleaned yet. Okay, for some reason my light's not working. Alright, so we're going to go ahead, we're going to reverse the wires on the LED, see if that solves my problem. I might have them wired backwards. That does have a nice rich sound for the speaker. I can't wait to stick that in. So, we'll be right back after these messages. Alrighty, and I've put my mic back. I went ahead and mounted the speaker. Yeah, I mounted the speaker in here. And here goes the first test. Now for the acid test, the headlight. And we've got a headlight. Alright. So at this point, I'm putting it under load test. All right. Just checking out all the functions here. Ooh. Oh, that would be fun. Okay. So far, everything works as intended. That pleases me. So now I'm just going to go ahead and I'm going to put everything here back together. I'm going to run the headlight through, and then I'm going to seal up the headlight with some canopy glue, which I've got somewhere here. There it is. So I can seal that headlight. And then I'm going to test run this and my other one at the club. So now the next thing I got to do is I got to program it. Now, if you're new to DCC, or if you haven't seen my other DCC installation videos, when you program, you need a different set of wires for programming. And basically what I want to do in the programming is I want to program it to the appropriate number, which is 2004. So power on, and we go to program mode, which would be DIR direct. I believe it's loco, address 2, address 4, and then all I got to do is type in the number 2004, right, and exit. And I'm having problems with the Bachmann to receive the programming, so I'm hoping our DCC guru at the club, who's helped me along with my journey here, will be able to help me on that problem. I really like the programming on this. This is a far cry from my other decoders that I've used, which are the XM, which I use basically for my steam locomotives, but I think I'm going to redo the speakers in my steam locomotives. I might do a video on that, I'm not sure. Okay. Let's just, yep. That's how you check it. You program in the locomotive number and you throw in the headlight. So yeah, now I just got to get this mess, which is a little less NASA-y. And I got to seal up my headlight so I don't blow that out. So we'll be right back after these messages. And there we have it, folks. Hard to believe this really has started off as a Tyco, but this turned out super, super cool. So the last things I got to put on it is the horn, which I had here a minute ago. There it is. The last things I got to put on is the horn, and I got to paint that black. And then put on the handrails, and 2004 is done. So we'll just roll that on out of the shop. Now there's a couple other things I want to probably do to it as well. Let me bring this back in. Nope. So there's a couple other things I've got to do. I've got to obviously add the windows. I've already done the number boards. I'll be doing that with good old-fashioned canopy glue. But for tomorrow and a test run, which I will hopefully film, because every time I come to the club I bring the camera, but I'll be running this with the GP40 and breaking her in. So until then, I am super psycho for Tyco today. Hey friends, I know you're at the end of the video and all that, but I just wanted to give a quick shout out that if you're in Carson City or any of the surrounding neighborhoods, come on down to Mills Park, where the Carson City Railroad Association, my model railroad club, happens to be at. We've got both HO scale and N scale. We run modular displays. We also have, during the summer months, a 2-foot tourist railroad that kind of goes around half the park. Membership fee is about $35. If you want to run some trains, come on down. Just let us know. Link in the description, and the link is right here at the bottom. And have a good one. I'm Psycho for Tyco. We'll see you next time. Okay then. That really freaked me out for a second there.